It's a tragedy. 6 million Americans live with a disease known as Alzheimer's, and that number is expected to rise exponentially as baby boomers grow older. Many people are terrified of being diagnosed with this terrible disease. But as Laurie Johnson tells us, there are ways that you can prevent it.
Despite the billions of dollars spent on Alzheimer's research, there is still no cure and very little in the way of treatment. But the good news is medical experts say there are ways to prevent getting Alzheimer's in the first place. Scientific evidence shows the same unhealthy choices that cause type 2 diabetes can also lead to Alzheimer's. In fact, Alzheimer's is sometimes nicknamed type 3 diabetes. The main problem is insulin resistance, which can decrease brain cell function and increase beta amyloid formation, the primary protein associated with Alzheimer's. But insulin resistance can be reversed, mainly by avoiding sugary and starchy foods. In his new book, The Better Brain Solution, Dr. Stephen Masley shows how to reverse and prevent insulin resistance of the brain by consuming brain-boosting foods and supplements, stress management, exercise, and avoiding brain toxins. Laurie Johnson, CBN News.
There was a story today in the paper about one of the leading pharmaceutical companies that has discontinued its research on Alzheimer's. They were looking for a cure and they haven't been able to find it. Well, we have a man that may have some solution to it. Dr. Stephen Masley has joined us now to tell us more about how to protect our brains. He's written a book called The Better Brain Solution. And doctor, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome.
I'm delighted to be here.
All right. What is this whole thing about insulin resistance? What is it and how do you identify it?
Well, insulin's the hormone that tells our cells to store energy. So if we eat too many refined carbs, like sugar and bread and pasta, our sugar levels rise. The insulin goes up to push it into the cell. But the irony is when the cells become full of energy, they stop listening to insulin. They're insulin resistant. And brain cells shut down. So our brain, we turn off our brain when we eat too many refined carbs.
And then what happens?
And then not only do we feel forgetful and less productive and maybe brain fog, but in addition to that, our brain cells start to die. And they literally start to shrink. So insulin resistance decreases our brain function, and it kills our brain.
It kills our brain. Well, you have done some amazing things, including actually studying to be a chef to get the right kind of food. Tell us about it.
Well, I've been doing research on how to reverse diabetes, heart disease, and improve memory function since the 1990s. And my original patients, way back then, said, "You're giving too much information. Just give me good recipes." And so I went back and did a chef internship. I have to thank my wife for letting me do that.
Is your food any good, by the way?
I think I work really hard to make my meals easy to prepare, delicious, and so they nourish your heart, brain, and soul.
All right, well now, you are a heart doctor. You are a cardiologist. You learn. Well, how come there's a tie between insulin resistance and the heart?
Well, there's a huge, the number one cause for heart disease is insulin resistance, elevated blood sugar levels. And that's also the number one cause for memory loss. So if we want to prevent heart disease and prevent memory loss, what we need to do is get our blood sugar control in-house. And that will get rid of, we can prevent most of memory loss and heart disease by just getting good blood sugar control.
All right, well now, what is it? You know, sugar is in everything though, isn't it?
Well, it's not in natural food.
All right, all right.
Clean protein, vegetables, fruit, beans and nuts, just like the food we have here.
Well, let's talk about that then. You've got some display. You want to tell us one at a time what it is that these are good for you?
We want, we do need plant pigments, like blueberries, berries, one of your favorite foods. And that's probably why you're so sharp, is because you eat these every day. Beans are really good. They help blood sugar control. And those pigments help block inflammation and injury to our brain. Green leafies, 1 cup of green leafies a day and your brain's almost 11 years younger compared to people who don't.
1 cup of green leafy vegetables?
People who eat 1 cup of green leafies a day have a brain that's about 11 years younger than people who don't.
Unbelievable. And so this is broccoli and
kale and black beans and red beans and berries and dark chocolate. That's another pigment that's really good for us. Cocoa, but it's got to be dark, not milk chocolate. We're not talking candy.
How much of these things you're supposed to eat?
Like a cup or 2 of green vegetables, and I want 3 cups of vegetables every day, colorful pigments. A cup of berries every day, a half cup of beans every day, 2 handfuls of nuts. I know you like nuts, and nuts are good for us.
I love them.
You know, 1 or 2 ounces of dark chocolate. And then we want healthy fat too. Our brain is mostly fat. So we want, you know, cook with olive oil, but just use it at the right temperature. Salmon, avocado oil, and nuts. Those are healthy fats that nourish our brain.
Well, it's so simple, isn't it? It seems to be so simple.
We want to add healthy food that's natural and cut out the sugar and the flour.
How much sugar is consumed by an average American in a year, a month, or any given period of time?
We're almost into buckets. I mean, it's like
really
scary, way too much sugar. So the average person is consuming vast amounts of sugar every day. And, you know, it's all this processed food. So it's really getting back to eating more natural food that we prepare ourselves.
Well, most people go to fast food. They go to McDonald's, they go to Wendy's, they go to someplace, and they get the typical American diet. They've got French fries, and they have hamburgers, and they have other fried food. What's in those foods that most of us eat? Well,
they're harmful fats that stiffen our brain, and it's sugar that gives us insulin resistance and causes diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. So, you know, you could still go out to fast food, but get a salad with protein on it and put on some Italian dressing. Okay. That would be a really good alternative.
Well, now, what does Alzheimer's do, and how much studying have you done on the disease?
Well, it's the scariest disease in America today. It's the most expensive disease in America today, $215 billion a year. And as you said, it's going to double in the next 12 to 15 years. So it's going up rapidly because of insulin resistance. That's the primary cause. So it basically shrinks your brain, takes away your identity, but even worse, it makes us a burden on the people we love, and nobody wants that.
Well, now, how come an organization like Pfizer says we're going to discontinue research? I mean, you've got the solution right here in front of us. Why would Pfizer stop it? Is it because they can't get a drug that'll make them any money?
None of the drugs have been shown to work. None of them stop the progression of the disease. But I believe we can prevent 60, perhaps up to 90% of all memory loss by following a program that helps make you feel fantastic. You know, I wake up each day feeling full of energy. I bet you do too. Right. And I want other people to feel fantastic as well and have a joyful life. I think God gave us a brain, and it's our responsibility to take care of it.
Well, now, just what you look at, you've got colorful vegetables, or colorful berries. You've got greens like broccoli and kale. You've got salmon, and you've got all kinds of nuts, and you've got olive oil. That's not very expensive, and it's not very complicated.
Yes, and you could do frozen berries instead of fresh. They work just as well. You can do canned wild salmon if you want. It works just as well. You can do frozen vegetables. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive. It's just making the right choices. So that's the whole point of the Better Brain solution.
You know, I've been after this high fructose corn syrup, and does that have a chemical reaction that is different from sugar that really hurts you?
Well, if it's high fructose, yes, it actually goes to your liver and makes fatty liver. It can make pate out of your liver, and that's not good. But most of it is, similar to glucose. The table sugar and the regular corn syrup is pretty similar chemically. It's just so present. It's everywhere. They're putting it in drinks, and drinking sugar is one of the worst things we can do.
All right, well, let's talk about Cokes. Hey, 16-ounce Coke, what does that do to you? How much sugar is in there?
That's like 16 ounce that's close to 7 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. I mean, your sugar levels are gonna soar, your insulin goes up. You can make yourself insulin, one of those a day, and you're gonna gain over 8 pounds of fat over a year. Let alone that it's shutting down your brain. It's decreasing your productivity, your mental sharpness. It's accelerating every aspect of aging.
Well, what about these artificial sweeteners that people say, well, you can take them and they've got 0 calories and so forth? What's the deal on them?
Well, they're not really 0 calories. I much prefer something natural. I would, if you're going to use a sweetener, I'd probably look at stevia, but we're still training the brain to need sweet. A lot of people have cravings because they're so used to sweet, it's like they can't get out of this cycle. So I'd prefer for them to learn to enjoy beautiful, lovely, flavorful food that's natural without the chemicals added.
Give us some of the recipes. You've got a book here that includes a tremendous amount about food. Well, what are some of the things that people can eat? And I mean, you show these, but if you're cooking something, what would you cook?
Well, for breakfast, I might have a veggie omelet, or I could have a protein shake with some berries and almond milk, 2 minutes to make. For lunch, I usually have soup. Or I'll have a salad with some protein on it, like, greens and protein and Italian dressing. I like nuts for a snack. For dinner, it could be fish. It could be a vegetarian meal, but lots of vegetables that are colorful with smart fats that go with them. You can cook them with avocado oil or olive oil and add herbs. We need more spices and herbs to make our food taste fabulous.
What about avocados? Is that a special thing? I mean,
well, avocados are special. They have a wonderful flavor. As a chef, I really appreciate them. But as a doctor and nutritionist, I really value them too for those omega-9 fats. They're very similar to olive oil in a lot of ways, and they're just fabulous in food.
Well, now there are fats. There's an omega-3 and omega-6 and various omegas. Which are the best for people? Do some of them hurt you?
Well, we want more omega-3, so that's especially seafood. That's one of our best sources why we should be eating seafood to bring our omega-3 level. That lowers inflammation, which basically makes our body rust on the inside.
Yeah.
So we clearly want to add more anti-inflammatory foods. We're less achy. It helps us lose weight, and it's wonderful for our heart and brain.
Unbelievable. It's so simple, isn't it? It's people make such a complicated thing, but what you've got is this better brain solution. What's in front of us is very simple. But I like broccoli. I like kale. I love kale.
And that's really the goal. We want it to be simple, but my big message is we don't want people to wait. People tend to procrastinate to the last minute. And when they have symptoms, but we don't want to wait till your brain's already shrunk. Our program, we've shown that people can improve their brain function by 25%. So don't wait. Have a better brain starting today and prevent memory loss.
I mean, your brains are actually, you start eating this stuff and you immediately, your brain begins to function better. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we've shown in our clinic in randomized trials, and we've published this, your brain improves by 25 to 30%. It's like someone gave you a faster computer.
That fast?
That fast.
Good grief. Ladies and gentlemen, why wait? The book is called The Better Brain Solution. It reads very, very interesting. It's got all kinds of good things in here for you. And you ought to get a copy. Where can we get it? It's Amazon, anyplace?
Wherever books are sold.
All right. Better Brain Solution, Dr. Stephen Masley. And we appreciate his work. And here in front of you are the things that, listen, these berries and nuts are so good when you're eating, whatever you eat in the morning. You make a breakfast of it. And salmon is good, and broccoli and kale are delicious. I mean, it's just that easy. Doctor, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Really an honor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the Better Brain Solution. Why do you have a brain fog? Why do you have memory loss? Why do you have incipient Alzheimer's? And why do you have inflammation that'll keep you from having the type of physical body you need to have? I mean, it's so simple. I mean, the doctor has got it for you, so why don't you go get it for yourself?